What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm Content AI Manager, and I'm helping small and medium enterprises around the world with their content strategy, producing content with AI technology. That's basically what I'm doing. Welcome to a new episode of the Web3 live show, where I interview entrepreneurs, thought leaders within the Web3 scene niche. And I'm very happy to speak today with Melih, or how he is called also in the US, Melih Oztalay. He's the CEO of SmartFinds Marketing, a 35-year-old award-winning marketing agency from the Detroit metropolitan area. Welcome, Melih, to the show. How are you doing?
Jakob, great to be on your show. Thank you very much.
It's great to see you, my friend. So let's start with your story, because when we met the first time, it was we had similarities because you lived for a while in Germany, so you know a little bit German, but most of your time you lived in the US. Can you tell us your story, please? So who's Melih?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just real quickly, my parents are Turkish. My family is Turkish, but my parents actually met in the United States when they were doing their residency and their fellowship, being doctors. And I was born in the United States. After that, just to make the long story short, I grew up in Germany, in Frankfurt, for most of my life. I went to the United States schools, the Department of Defense schools, which back in those days, especially during the Cold War, was a big thing. I mean, the U.S. had a lot of troops stationed in Europe as well as in Germany, and while it was a Cold War, it was also peacetime, and so they had everything U.S. families would need, including schools, shopping centers, and so on and so forth. And so the first half of my year, my younger years were spent in Frankfurt, where I spoke English during the day and German afterwards, after school, and then Turkish at home. So it was an interesting life in terms of growing up. But after I graduated high school, I ended up going to college in the United States. I ended up in Michigan. I graduated and started a business pretty much after I graduated, which was in business. It was in marketing, and our company is 35 years old. We started in Michigan. We've been in Michigan ever since then. I love business. I love marketing. I like strategy. Maybe because I like strategy because I grew up in Germany.
That's,
Let's face it.
yeah.
I grew up with chess, and so
Okay. Oh, I mean, I already love this. Okay, we have to make a deep dive now. So, what
go
is
for
this
it.
thing about strategy in Germany? Please explain this. So,
No, I mean, look, your background's Turkish too, right? And so my
yeah.
background's Turkish, and so this is my analogy, okay? Especially after growing up in Germany. So in Turkey, everybody loves to play backgammon, right? Or
Yes,
tavla.
tabla.
And if you think about tavla, it is about chance, right? They throw the dice, whatever happens, happens, right? And so whatever the numbers are, you move forward. But it's that concept of backgammon is ingrained in the culture to the point that that's how people live. It's based on chance. When I grew up in Germany, everything had rules, it had regulations, it had boundaries. People followed those boundaries, people followed the law, people followed the rules. I grew up learning chess in Germany. It was based on a strategy. You looked 3 moves ahead of you minimum, right? You had an idea of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And so when I relate the concept of strategy in Germany, it's based on the fact that you can't have strategy unless you understand the rules. You can't have strategy unless you have boundaries and limits where you are going to work within, whatever that plan may be. Whereas in Turkey, when you're thinking about backgammon, that doesn't happen, right? There are no rules. The rules are based on the dice. It's based on chance. And so when you think about Turkish culture, it's not necessarily based on the fact that anybody's following rules. Nobody's following the law. Certainly not in traffic. Not in Turkey.
Yes,
And
yes,
everything is
indeed.
based on chance, right? It's just whatever life brings you. And so don't get me wrong. Look, if I had grown up in Russia, I may suggest strategy being Russian, right?
Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? So I grew up in Germany, and so because I grew up in Germany, and I actually learned chess and strategy and thinking ahead, critical thinking and planning. This is where this concept of marketing makes a lot of sense. You can't execute marketing unless you have a plan. You can't create the plan unless you've done research. You develop a plan to start with, but marketing is a process, meaning it's a cycle. It has certain activities. The activities have tasks. You understand what you're going to measure. You understand how you're going to interpret and analyze that data. And then based on that, you're going to change your plan and continue to improve what it is you started with. And so this is a process. It's a marketing process. And when I first got into marketing in the early days, back let's just say 1990 for now. This is what attracted me to business. This is what attracted me to marketing, is the fact that there is a strategy, there's a plan, you're thinking ahead, you're coming up with an idea, and then based on how things are going, you start making changes to improve those ideas.
Okay, I get it. I mean, being something interesting to someone is one thing, but starting your own business in this area is a whole another thing. So, were there some mini steps to get to this idea of starting your own business, or was it always a wish of you?
I think it had something to do with the fact that when I started in business in 1985, actually, I was hired by a company. The owner of that company and I got along very well. He actually became one of three mentors to me over the course of my career. And it was based on his belief in me, where this concept of business and being able to think about, okay, well, maybe I can do this on my own, started. He was the beginning point of all that. And after that, I had two other mentors over the course of my career that kind of, how should I say, they gave me new perspectives, right? A second mentor I had over the years helped me understand organization and process. And then a third mentor I had over the course of my career, he kind of gave me the understanding of what it means to run your own marketing agency. While you have all these different foundations, by the time you get to actually running the business, it's a different concept. You may understand business, you may understand process, and so on and so forth. But then the question is, this third mentor, he actually had retired. He sold his marketing agency or his ad agency at the time, and he gave me an entirely different perspective. And so if I think about these three different mentors over the course of my business career, each individual had a different concept or a different value in my life to be able to assist me to start the business and then run the business, and more importantly, 35 years later, keep the business.
So very interesting. Always comes back also to when you say organization and processes. Way back when I was working as an employee, people who were in charge of processes, I thought, what are they doing? But when I started my own business, I found myself how important processes are, and if you define them
Absolutely.
very clearly, they make your life very easy. And from the third mentor, what you told me, it almost sounds a little bit like, so not to work in your business, but on your business, so that you
Exactly.
build the fundamentals,
Right.
so that the business is running also when you are not there. So without you. So
Absolutely. No
that's what I
question.
get from. Okay, cool.
Yeah, very cool, very interesting. Yep. I mean, that's I mean, just to kind of close this concept out or this topic, the other day I was talking with somebody on a completely separate topic, but I was mentioning to this person that the team that I currently have has been with me for over 10 years. And over the last 10, 11, 12 years, we've only had one person leave our company. And when that individual left, they actually went and did something on their own. And that was okay. Right? They felt like they gained a lot of knowledge, within the company and moved on to something else. But for the most part, the entire team works together. We have a tech team, we have a marketing team, we have a creative team, and everybody's working with each other. We're not working for anybody. And I think that's important concept to keep in mind. It's about working with the company. It's about working with each other. It's about sharing ideas, and more importantly, openly sharing ideas, without the concept of that there would be repercussions. I think everybody has their own ideas. I think as a business owner, you have to allow the team. I'm not going to call them employees. You have to allow the team to voice their own opinions, to come up with their own ideas, and give them the authority and the responsibility to make the decisions. Is everything always right? No. But the question really comes down to, can the team learn from its mistakes? And as long as the team can learn from its mistakes, then we're heading in the right direction. The other day, the only other question that I was asked the other day was, well, why is the team only 10 years old? I said in 2008, 2009, and 2010, we had a financial crisis. And so because we're based in Detroit, ground zero for this global financial crisis was Detroit. We had a very difficult time keeping the staff. We had a very difficult time operating, keeping our clients. It was a very difficult time, but we did survive that, albeit that, much to my disappointment, majority of the team that we had back then, we had to let go, because we had to protect the company at the end of the day. And so all that being aside, we did start from scratch sometime around 2010, 2011, where we have our current team, and everybody's been working well together. So I'm happy.
Awesome. So many topics already in what you said about the leadership, digital leadership. Your team is not remote, right? They are all based in Detroit, and you're seeing them.
Most everybody's in Detroit. Don't get me wrong. We do hire freelancers on a case-by-case basis, based on a project, based on needs. Do we have the right staff? Can we get the job done within the time frame needed? Those types of things. And so, yes, when we do hire, the good news in today's digital world is that we can in fact hire freelancers to be able to close the gap as needed. But we make those decisions as when the situation occurs, and those people are remote. Just like you and I are remote right now. The good news is we have all this technology to communicate and to converse around the globe. So might as well take advantage of it.
Yes, definitely. So what was the main purpose when you started SmartFinds Marketing? So what was your passion? So it was about marketing that you already told us, and business. So how did you come up with this?
I think it's important to bring to life the fact that our company has had different brands. We have a registered company as a sub S in the United States called Armstrong Communications. That's the company that I own. Over the years, we put different brands based on need underneath that umbrella. So back in the 1990s, we had one company brand called SpeedLink Internet Solutions, right? Back in the 1990s, it was about making connections to the internet. It was about developing websites. It was about website marketing, not web marketing, just website marketing, because that's all you could do back then.
Web one.
And so as the 1990s went on, and so when you're dealing with, we had traditional media, which was under Armstrong Communications. We had our ISP group, or technical group, so to speak, back in those days. And then as time progressed, we had a website development team, but we had to split things up. And so in 2002, we took the ISP team, it got sold off. And then the website team, the question was what to do with it. So between 2002 and 2004, we were trying to come up with what is that concept going to look like. And I think it made where it really started to click was in 2004 when Google went public. Google was the first company to go public in the tech industry after the tech industry crash during, I think it was 2001. And so 3 years later, Google, yeah, exactly. So Google was the first major company to go public, and they went public in a big way. Obviously, they went against, what was going on with Netscape during the 1990s, what was going on with Yahoo, and a variety of other search engines that we had at the time. And so when Google went public, Google also changed how search works. And that's where it started to click. You know what? Companies need to be found, right? They need to be found in Google. When people do a Google search, can you be found? And so we went through this process of coming up with a brand, and we came up with SmartFinds Marketing as our brand name. And that's the brand name that we've been operating under since 2004. So it's been 18 years under that brand. And mind you, our traditional media, we kind of stopped that during 2004 as well. And so, but if you think about all the different things that we've done, it's always been about marketing. It's always been about creative technology. At the end of the day, I'm an early adopter. Bring something new to me, I always try to figure out how to make use of it right away.
That's cool.
So that's where SmartFinds started back in 2004.
Cool. So, and what kind of clients do you have over the years? So, which verticals do you work with? And
we've worked with there's three very large companies that we work with. We work with BASF Chemicals because they have a large chemical plant in the Detroit metropolitan area. We worked with Guardian Industries, large glass manufacturing company that also makes the necessary windows for build large buildings globally. They're also based in the Detroit metro area as their headquarters. And then we also worked with Delphi, automotive manufacturer. Those were three very large ones, and we gained very interesting experiences with all three of them. But outside of that, we've worked with US-based companies that are B2C. And so, for example, we've worked with Wendy's. We worked with Olga's Kitchen in the Detroit metro area, Tubby's Sub Shops. I don't know, those types of B2C companies. We've worked with franchise operations like Z-Bart and Comfort Care. We've worked with financial institutions, I don't know, and manufacturing. As you can imagine, because we're in Detroit, it's like there's two things you can't get away from. Number one is you can't get away from the automotive industry, and you can't get away from manufacturing. And so we've always worked with manufacturers, and we have been working with automotive dealerships actually for the last 12 years. And we have different programs to assist dealerships in terms of getting more sales and leads into their stores. So I would say that our competencies, our knowledge, our experiences are very broad. And as you can imagine, after 35 years, it's like, I at this point, it's hard, you could throw a florist at me. I can tell you how to do the marketing for the florist. Something you learn over the years.
Yeah, just to make sure that I get it right. So what you're actually doing is you're helping these companies not only being visible, but also that the website is generating leads, so warm contacts, right?
That's a large portion of what we do.
Okay.
It's about driving the right traffic to the website, right?
Mhm.
And so then there's two parts to that puzzle. One is what is the website, and then the other side of the puzzle is what are you doing outside of the website so that Google understands what type of traffic to drive to it.
Mhm.
And that's what we call organic traffic. Now, obviously, a lot of companies would like to do advertising programs as well. And so the way that we've been using advertising programs for quite a while now, because advertising on the web has changed, we use advertising as a support mechanism to everything else that's going on. So it's not the number one driver, rather it's a support tool in the grand scheme of a strategy. And we use it very loosely because it's one of those things where if you're, unless you have a large budget, you're able to spend
Yes.
whatever, $250,000 a year or more on advertising. That's all you want to do. That's great, but not all businesses are able to do that. So, let's find a smaller space that works. And so, when you're dealing with budgets, let's say, business budgets around $120,000 to that, or that $100,000 to $200,000 range. Well, then you have to figure out how are you going to make it all work so that it's effective. And it's going to be a combination of the website. It's going to be a combination of content, inbound marketing, and so with social media, and it's going to be about advertising. So the question is, how do you put that strategy together across all three of these segments?
Yeah. I mean, paid advertisement, in my opinion, it's a tactic. So you can use it
exactly
as
right.
a tactic, but I would not say it's a strategy. If your strategy is using ads, then your strategy is not that strong. I mean, yeah.
No,
Anyway,
at least not in. It's certainly not in today's world, and this is the problem. If we, I mean, the problem that I have with is majority of the people that I work with, and have the authority and the responsibility on marketing budgets are my age or older. I'm 59. And so I'm dealing with other fellow baby boomers, and their expectations of advertising is much different than what reality is all about. Reality says that, just like you just explained it, advertising becomes a tactic. It's a tool within your arsenal of marketing within your marketing strategy. It's not the lead. And the reason it's because it's not the lead is because the market has changed, the industry has changed, your target audience has changed. Everybody's not looking for ads anymore, and you got all these ad blockers on mobile, on browsers, etc. Advertising is not as effective as what most people think. And so you have to figure out, how do you gain trust of your target audience? And they want you to teach them. They want you to understand who they are. They want you to speak to them, right? And so that's where the difference lies. And so advertising becomes a support tool, and like you said, it's a tactic within the grand strategy. It's not the lead strategy.
You make me so happy saying this. Really, I really, honestly, no kidding. You make me just. I really appreciate what you said, especially that you use the word trust, which is from a content standpoint is, I mean, my main emphasis. So you have to build trust through content that you create. That's basically how it works. And
I mean, the concept, what's interesting is the concept of inbound marketing, right? So inbound marketing is about your website's SEO. It's about content marketing, and which obviously means that you have to develop the content. And it's about social media marketing, and it's about bringing all three of these pieces together. And at the end of the day, social media marketing can't operate unless you have content. The content you develop has to be able to speak to your audience. You have to educate, you have to gain their trust. They want to know that that you're looking out for them. And the problem that and mind you, again, I'm going to blame my fellow baby boomers on this whole situation, because they're going in the exact opposite direction like it was 40 years ago, right? So 40 years ago, you were running ads and you were pushing your information onto people. Whereas
The Super Bowl
nowadays,
ad, for example.
yeah, exactly. Right.
Super Bowl.
Nowadays, I mean, even the Super Bowl ad nowadays has changed. It's actually a support tool at the end of the day. But your target audience doesn't want you to push yourself on them. They want to be able to find you when they need you. That changes the scope of everything. The controlling factor in this are no longer the businesses or the agencies. The controlling factor is now in the audience. So you have to figure out how you're going to work with that. And I think that's where where the whole process changes. It's not what it used to be 40 years ago. You have to come forward. You have to look at what's going on today. You got the millennials, you got the Gen X's, the Gen Z's. We've got entirely different audience that you're trying to market to. And their only goal is, when I need you, I will find you. You just have to figure out how you're going to be there when they do that.
Yeah, love it. I mean, I'm full on your side. I just would add one level. So the aspect of co-creation. So that's the Gary Vee model. So that we, for example, sometimes I also bring people into this live session, and then I don't know, Anton from Germany asks us a question, and then we tag Anton also on LinkedIn and post this, and then he likes and shares it. So this part of co-creation with your audience is also a very important aspect, which brings you where you can scale also the content that you produce, because other people are sharing it. But that's only one thing that I would add. But other than that, I'm full on your side and totally agree with what you said. Yeah.
I mean, I think what you're mentioning right now is what some people would call omnichannel marketing or multi-channel marketing, right? In other words, you need to create content based on what your target audience is looking for, right? And you're going to do that through a variety of research. You're going to look through different types of data and figure that out. But the piece that you're just talking about, I think, also falls into the category of user-generated content. So, for example, if I'm a business, what I would want to do is find communities where my target audience is going to be.
Yes.
Listen, read what they're saying, read the responses, and more importantly, if you want to engage in the responses in a productive way, not in a negative way, and learn about what your target audience is looking for and how they find things, right? So the co-creation that you're talking about, I think, might fall into the category of user-generated content, but you as a business have to be involved in that user-generated content. So take a look at YouTube, take a look at Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, right? Get involved in Instagram, Reddit, obviously. I mean, that's a big one in terms of where people share ideas and information amongst each other. Take a look at all these types of communities, learn what people are saying, and then based on that, you have a better chance of understanding how you're going to develop that strategy that you're looking for.
Yes, you're speaking from my heart. So when people say, I don't know what to write about or to speak about, I just say, go to these forums that you mentioned, that you listed. Exactly. Go there. You don't have to invent it. Just read and then copy paste. Just make it. Take that question and create content from based on that question. That's simple.
I mean, even if you
People,
don't use that, go to Google Trends, for example.
yeah,
Google Trends has all this information about, you know, how people search, what they're searching for, what, you know, what are some of the terms that people are migrating to. You have Google Insights, which is phenomenal in terms of
yes,
research and reports and so on and so forth. I mean, all these things require somebody to sit down, read, and research. Obviously, after you've done all this research, you have to do something very interesting. Not only do you have to analyze what you just read or across all this different information, but you also have to interpret what it is you've come up with. What does it all mean? And then move forward based on that. And I think this is where, you know, the research, the planning, the strategy comes into play before you start going, you know, abruptly and creating some reaction to say, well, I think I should do this. And then people are wondering why this doesn't work.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Okay, okay, I have to come back to my
Yeah,
questions.
go for
So,
it.
so when it comes, what major challenges do your clients have when they meet you? So, is it the lead gen, or what exactly is it? What they struggle with? So, it's the generation of the lead, or is it the
Yeah,
traffic? What?
everybody has their own variation, right?
Okay,
And so let me give you some examples, right? So car dealerships, their main issue is how do I get somebody to walk in the door? I mean, we haven't reached the point where people are, you know, 100% buying cars online, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it's happening, but
Tesla.
your your car dealership is wanting somebody to walk in the door where somebody can test drive a car, they can look at the car, they can feel it, and so on and so forth. And so for a car dealership, it's about driving people into the dealerships. And that strategy is completely separate. If you're a franchise operation, whatever that might look like, specifically a franchisor, right? Not the franchisee, but the franchisor. The franchisor is completely interested in getting more franchisees. So they need more lead gen. So the website has to be able to be effective to generate leads. And that has its separate strategy as well. I remember when we did the Wendy's project, it was purely based on coupons. And so, you know, how do you get people to download a coupon? How do we track that coupon and understand whether or not the program had had a success? There's a variety of elements in understanding, you know, in figuring out, okay, what is the problem? Some businesses, especially manufacturers, their primary problem is they don't understand the internet. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, you have large manufacturers. You got your Delphi's, you've got your Guardian Industries, your SKFs, and so on and so forth. And those are very large companies, and they understand how to use the web. But for the average manufacturer, your tier 2, your tier 3 provider, they don't understand how to use the web. And so they need somebody to walk in the door and become their digital marketing department. So to the point that they don't even know where their domain name is, right? It's registered in some cases.
Yeah.
And so it's about managing the entire web presence at that point. I think that every business has its own scenario. Where we make a difference is the fact that we're not a service provider. We look at ourselves as a strategic partner. What we want to do is make sure that the client succeeds. And if the client succeeds, then we succeed, and we will continue that partnership over a very long period of time. And we do have clients that have been with us for more than 5+ years. I think to develop that relationship is not just about performance. It's about consultation. It's about activities, moving things in the right direction, collaborating with the client. Everybody has to share what are they seeing. So we look at Google Analytics, we look at Google Search Console. The client looks at their results. The client says, hey, we made these types of business decisions and we made these types of business changes. So how does that change our website or our marketing program? So it's a collaborative process. And I think that this only comes if you're working with a marketing agency. If you're working with marketing service providers, which you might get out of India, Pakistan, Malaysia, Nigeria, and so on and so forth, I don't know that you're going to get what you're looking for. I think the service provider route is difficult. It can only work if the person managing the marketing service provider understands what they're talking about. But if the company doesn't know what they're dealing with, then marketing service provider is not going to work. You have to have that relationship. And so we look at ourselves as a strategic partner, more so than a vendor, for example.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I mean, yeah, it makes totally sense. Somebody that I can trust and work with,
right?
Exactly. On a long term.
It has to be built on a trusting relationship. It has to be built on a long-term relationship. And look, just like every other relationship out there, I don't care who it is, a man and a wife, or whether it's company and company, you always have those bumpy roads in the beginning. Everybody's trying to learn how to work with each other. Everybody's trying to understand what the other side is all about. You're making suggestions. One side doesn't understand it, doesn't like it, whatever. Usually the first, 4 months is kind of that learning period where everybody's getting to know each other. But after you get past that, then you can then build on that foundation and move on in a better direction, or for a number of years very easily.
Yeah. So is there one special use case that you're most proud of? Something special in all the years?
Oh gosh, we've had a number of those over the years, and I think when I say a number of them, they're all in different scenarios, right? So, for example, back in the I can't remember exactly when it was, 2007, 8, maybe 9. I don't know, somewhere in that neighborhood. I remember we had a cigar company who wanted to work, get more sales on the internet. And so it was B2C, but more importantly, their brand didn't make sense. We had to come up with a completely new brand, and I because of confidentiality agreements, I can't mention it right now, but we came up with the brand. We came up with the logo, with the icon, with what it's going to look, how it's going to feel. And it was a lot of fun. And that was a project that I was pretty proud of, because we had to completely turn around how they're going to operate on the internet. So what I thought was interesting is when you went to Google and you typed in their name, Google kept on coming back in the beginning of those days and saying, hey, did you mean this? And it had nothing to do with that. But after content marketing, SEO, and doing, I can't say that social media wasn't mature enough at the time, but I mean, Twitter had just started in 2007, I think it was, or 2006, and so that whole process was still growing. But content marketing, SEO, articles, inbound links, and so on and so forth. Eventually, and I'm going to say it was about 4 months later, you went to Google and you typed in their name, and all of a sudden Google no longer said, oh, did you mean this? Google now understood who that was. And the only thing that came up in the search result was their information. So, so I mean, that was a fun and interesting project, because it was about brand development. It was about a brand marketing strategy. It was about managing the organic traffic from Google, and that was important at the time. And also at the same time, we were using advertising, digital advertising, in support of everything else that was going on. And so it was a fun project, I have to admit. It always sticks in the back of my mind.
Yeah, awesome. Really cool. So this is also the show about Web3. So when it comes to your vision about your company, so what are the plans? What do you plan for the next 5 years, maybe 3 to 5 years, so mid-term to long-term?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you asked the question. We, having been through the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009, and 2010 in the Detroit area, we learned very quickly that we had to figure out, how do we pivot? How do you change your direction based on market circumstances? And in this case, you're dealing with market circumstances that are outside of your control. It's one thing if I, for our company, make a decision and it doesn't work and we fail, and I will own up to it and accept that. But it's an entirely different thing when you're being forced into a direction that is outside of your control. So the financial crisis started somewhere on Wall Street and the mortgage companies, and it was a complete disaster. But we learned that we had to pivot, right? We had to change with circumstances. And while I didn't enjoy any of the decisions I had to make, because they were hard decisions, we made them. When the pandemic hit, that was another situation where you're being forced down a path outside of your control. And we, having been through the first crisis, we were better prepared for this crisis. But at the same time, we understood that, this is the time when we have to pivot. Again, let's take the opportunity of what's going on and come up with a new, what is our direction? So we're an award-winning company with the state of Michigan. That award allowed us during the pandemic, especially in 2020, to reach out to consultants at the state level or through the state that would work with us. We worked with them for about 6 months. They worked with us, with our team. We collaborated. We looked at different elements of who we are and what we are. So, for example, the logo that you see behind me was changed because of these conversations. We decided that we had to make a change in terms of how the market looks at us. What we had before was a little outdated by a factor of 16 years. So the question is, should we come up with a new direction? And we felt that modernizing and appearing more contemporary would be helpful. In conjunction with that, the other side elements were, well, what are we offering? Is the market ready for what we're offering, or do we need to take a look at what some of our offerings are? And so while we have our standard SmartFinds programs, which is at the end of the day, website marketing, advertising, as one of our managers likes to say, then the question is, well, what else do we have as part of our offerings, right? So for dealerships, we have our Smart One program as an example, right? If you're looking for local marketing, we have our Smart Local program. If you're looking for programs that are related to, for example, we came up with a program that we call Skunkworks. I don't know if you're familiar with Skunkworks, but it was developed by Lockheed Martin back in the 1950s and 60s. It was a troubleshooting, problem-solving group. And based on what's going on with ad agencies, especially after 2009, we decided that we should go to market with our SmartWorks program. In other words, we become a problem-solving team for a large company, because it only works with B2C. This only makes sense with large corporations, where we analyze and come up with a solution to an ad campaign or a marketing program or something else that they're doing where their brand isn't working. Because a lot of times the ad agency is not equipped to do this, where a small team that's flexible and nimble is more likely to be able to do this. And so SmartWorks, for example, is geared towards problem solving. It's also geared towards testing, which is what the Lockheed Martin Skunkworks team was all about. So they would test things out as well. So our idea is, well, let's test something new in the digital world that the client or the ad agency hasn't done and see if we can make it work, right? And so it's a combination of problem solving. It's a combination of testing. It's about using a small team that's flexible, nimble, able to make adjustments very quickly, and more importantly, come up with a solution quickly. It's not like it's going to take 6 months to figure this out. We have to figure this out within 30 to 45 days. So to answer your question, what we came up with back in 2020 after working with all these consultants is we came up with different elements of what our company and its offerings look like you said, over the next 5 years. And we have different elements to that. And the one that we're focusing heavily right now is what we call conversion rate optimization. And so how do we generate more leads, more sales from the website's existing traffic? In other words, we're not asking for somebody to spend more money on driving more traffic to the website. Rather, let's figure out how to fix the website, make it work, and more importantly at that point, generate 3 times more leads than they're currently getting.
3 times.
3 times. That's minimum. Actually, we have case studies that are better than that.
Wow, that's really cool. Very ambitious, but it's possible with the
It is
things that
possible.
you
I
do.
agree.
Yeah. Cool.
No question.
And one thing that you mentioned earlier, so you say you're a strategic partner, but who are the partners or the cooperation partners that you would love to work with in the near future? Are there any media influencer or something that you would love to do?
You know, I don't know if I have any one person that I would pick or one company that I would pick. A lot of it is because, for example, on LinkedIn, I already work with a lot of major influencers on LinkedIn. And when I say work with, I don't mean in terms of paying these influencers. Rather, I'm working with them in collaborating and sharing ideas on LinkedIn. And most of the ones that I work with have a very large following. I engage with that following. And so it's hard for me to say that one influencer right now. I wouldn't want to get everybody else pissed off if I said one person versus the rest of them. And I think the same thing holds true with companies too. We work with a variety of companies, whether they're manufacturers, they're auto dealerships, financial institutions, franchisees, franchisors, whether they're looking for local marketing or they're large global companies. I don't know that there's any one in particular that I would say that I would like to work with now, because it's a difficult choice to make when I'm already working with a lot of successful companies to begin with.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Yeah, Melih, time flies with you. So, I mean, I thought.
Look,
I have more questions, but
if you punch my name into Google, you'll see that I'm an industry author. You'll see that I've spoken at conferences in the past. You'll find that traditional radio shows call me. I'm on podcasts. I'm on video casts. You'll find anything and everything about me. I'm an open book at this point.
That's cool. So LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, just punch in my name, Melih Oztalay, and I'm the only one out there. You're not gonna.
Yes. Indeed.
Nobody else with my last name, and certainly not a combination.
Your team worked on that one, right? So they made sure that. Okay, cool.
Let's just say that was natural. It didn't require a lot of work.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. That's the same also with me, with my name, which is very public. Yeah, cool. Anything last thing that you want to share? I mean, yeah. So
the only thing, I think a lot of, there's a couple of things that I like to talk about, especially when I do speaking engagements. I like to talk about my 4 A's of digital marketing. And so, and mind you, I developed this over years. And so the first A is about anticipate change. You need to understand that everything changes. And especially since 1981, when the IBM PC first came out. I mean, even prior to that, but definitely since the IBM PC came out, One of the things we started to learn very quickly is that there was change happening once a year in technology. And that process has increased quite a bit within the same year nowadays. The second thing is you have to accept change. And this tends to be the hardest part for a lot of companies. Because what basically is happening is that change happened and they don't like it, mostly because they just spend a lot of money and a certain percentage of that went to waste. And they get caught up in the emotion of what they spent and they didn't get. And my suggestion with a lot of these companies, and sometimes I have to talk to the CEOs very directly, is that if you keep fretting and fuming about this change, your competitors are going to keep moving ahead of you. If you stop this process, you're going to fall further behind. And so when I say accept change, this is probably the hardest part for a lot of businesses. Stop worrying about what happened. Just accept what's happening and move forward. Because I guarantee you will be left behind if you stop. Or if you decide to pause and figure out how you're going to warm up to the changes. It's like, it's not logical. Get over the emotion. And then the third part, assuming they can get past this second one, the third one is about adapting to the changes. So now obviously you have to change how you feel, right? How you're going to perceive and how you're going to work. And I think that's another important element. And the last part is even easier, which is about adopting the changes. So take the changes that are happening and figure out how you're going to put them into action, right? And that's the easy part. But those are the 4 A's of digital marketing that I think are important. I think you have to work with it, not against it, and understand that this is an ongoing process. There is no end point.
Cool, love it. I wrote it down. So anticipate change, accept change, adapting to changes, and then the fourth one was
adopting.
Adopting.
So adapting is one thing, adopting is another.
Yeah, I will check it.
Okay.
That's already a good blog article. Yeah, it's a good blog article topic. Yeah, you should publish about this topic. Awesome.
Hey, look up 4 A's of digital marketing. You'll find my stuff anyway.
Okay. I will check it. I will check it. Okay. Definitely. Cool. Awesome, Melih. It was a pleasure to speak with you. All the people who watched, if you have any questions, just let us know in the comment section so I can forward it to Melih also. And yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you, Melih, for your time. It was a pleasure to.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It was great. I love sharing my knowledge and my experiences.
Yeah, that's you're doing it in a very smart way, I think. Okay, thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.